Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting, what I'm sure will be exciting episode of Mortgage Tech Talks. Here with me, Reuven. I always like to turn it over to my guest first to do their intro. I don't want to presume anything because I usually learn a lot about that person when they do the intro themselves. So without any further ado, Reuven, let's turn it over to you. I'd love to maybe just for the audience, give us the elevator pitch, who you are, and then we'll get right into it. I'm looking forward to the convo.
Yeah, thanks, Dom. Super excited to be on. And so my name is Reuven Gorsht. Job title is co-founder and CEO of a company called Deeded.
Wear a lot of different hats though, slash CFO, slash CMO, slash many things, I'm
A
sure,
lot, a
right?
lot of different things, including janitorial duties every now and then. But yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Amazing. I guess just for everyone listening, we've connected, I think kind of in passing over the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I think we kind of dove into the mortgage space around the same time, 2018, 19. And it's been kind of cool, from us at that time. For me, I'll speak for me, just trying to get my bearings. Where am I? What's going on? Which way's up? And now being, over 5 years into it and having a bit more of a compass, of course, learning every day. But I feel that, yeah, at every kind of trade show, we would see each other and kind of have a convo and kind of be dealing with the same type of issues of saying, okay, well, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. So yeah, our paths have always kind of crossed in different ways. So looking forward to this convo. Maybe just to start, just because again, I always end up learning something out of this. Love to hear maybe just a little bit about your background. People always ask me, hey, how'd you get into this mortgage space? It's not a traditional career path, no kindergarten. At least I don't know any kindergartners that say, hey, I want to be in the mortgage space when I grow up. But a lot of people end up here and a lot of people are really grateful for it. So, yeah, what's your kind of story with it? How'd you kind of stumble into this career? I know you had kind of a different startup before. I don't know if
Mhm.
that was a logical bridge or it was like just a big jump for you, but love to hear a bit about that.
Yeah, great question, Tom. So I think almost by total accident, actually, just before launching Deeded, I was doing a little bit of research. I actually saw a posting about a conference called MPC, so Mortgage Professionals Canada had the national conference. This was in 2019, I believe, around November, before obviously
Yeah.
COVID hit the next year. And I literally bought a ticket that morning. I didn't even realize the size of the conference or anything like that. So
Yeah.
just got dressed up, sat in on some sessions, honestly felt like a
Yeah.
total fish out of water, didn't understand anything. I think I knew
Like, is
one
everyone
person.
looking at me right now? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I think
that's what
there's
I
only
know
one
that feeling.
person that I knew
Yeah.
from the past, and I sort of, like an anxious baby, I think was clinging on to her leg. But yeah, the rest has sort of been history. So after we launched Deeded in March the following year of 2020, I think everyone knows, COVID happened a couple weeks later. I was very
Yeah.
excited by what I saw in that conference, just the energy level and most of all the opportunity for change, because what I saw is a bunch of really great folks where there were gaps in technology and process. And I think you'll get to know this about me, I'm a big customer experience geek. That's what I've done my entire career. And
Yeah.
I knew from my own experience getting a mortgage was not a fun thing. So I
Yeah.
just saw a lot of
Sure.
opportunity. And I think, again, like, just stumbled into that conference almost by accident. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Just kind of fell into it. And yeah, we have a similar type story. I'm curious because I know you spent some time in other industries, more maybe, I guess, on the real estate, like more like realtor side of things. For us personally, we've spent some time working with financial advisors, and I always like to kind of compare, the appetite and willingness to, I guess, innovate, evolve, more from a tech perspective. What's been your kind of experience with that? So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you did something more in the real estate space. You kind of got a sense and a feel of how willing people would be to use tech there, and now jumping into more on the mortgage side, you're kind of getting that same feel. My general take is that, hey, it's kind of a really nice blend of smart people, but also the right level of maybe regulation so that, hey, just to do something new doesn't require 55 hoops to jump through. There's maybe only one or two. So it's been a great sweet spot for us to kind of really get in there and dig our teeth in and really be able to innovate. Has that been kind of your experience, would you say?
Yeah, totally. What I love about sort of all three verticals, Tom, like financial advisors, mortgage brokers, realtors, is most of them are a business of one, right? So you're
Yeah,
helping out and you're having impact on an individual. Now, they may be a team, they may
right.
be part of a bigger organization, but when you're having that conversation, when you have a solution, whether if it's technology or whether if it's, a better way to do things, better process, better way to serve your customers, what I find most rewarding is you immediately see that impact. Like, I came from
Yeah.
a whole different world of enterprise software where I spent kind of the first half of my career, as I like to call it. And when you're selling to a big company, you're selling to a big company, a corporation, a bank, you don't really see that impact. You see that impact in your paycheck and that you're successful, but you don't often get to see the fruits of your
Sure.
labor. Whereas,
Yeah.
if we're talking to a mortgage broker and we're able to streamline the way they close their transactions and their clients are happy and they see a lot more business rolling in through referrals and great reviews, we're able to see that impact and we're very close to it. And that's what excites me about the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say it's also, one of those things we work with some brokers, as I'm sure you do, that have kind of made the switch from bank to broker. And it's, they're always kind of figuring it out what it looks like. And it is very different. But I always say that mindset that you just described, being a business of one, hey, everything that you do is going to have a very immediate impact. I think that's honestly a huge way in which brokers actually compete, right? A lot of people, when you're at the Thanksgiving table, everyone thinks, well, why would anyone go to a broker? Why won't I just go to my bank? There's a lot in that, which is brokers can innovate. They make decisions for themselves and they see that immediate impact, and that allows them to iterate very quickly, right? So if they are adopting something like a deeded, yeah, they can make that decision very quickly, but then they can also start seeing the fruits of that and then incorporate it into even other parts of their business and just letting those results multiply, which is so cool. So I completely agree
Sure.
there. Maybe just to switch gears a bit, you talked a lot about the customer experience. You're a big
Mhm.
customer experience guy. And if I had to guess, that's probably, a big reason you've had success in the couple companies that you've started, if I had to guess. The first question is, are you technical? Like, are you a software engineer? And like, did you do all that stuff?
No.
And if not, no, yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't think
no,
so. I didn't
not
want to
I've
presume, but
never
yeah.
I don't think I've ever coded
Yeah.
beyond,
Yeah.
and I'm dating myself on a Commodore 64 with like 2 lines of BASIC. That's as
Yeah,
far as I go on
you've
the
lost
technical
me on
side.
the Commodore, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm aging myself the other way. But in any case, so I guess, being a non-technical founder, because a lot of the audience listening to this are, I think, a lot of brokers out there saying, "Hey, I have this great tech idea. I'd love to try to implement it, but I'm not an engineer. I'm not a techie person necessarily. I'm passionate about it, but I don't do it." So, has customers, I guess, experience been your key of being like a non-technical founder? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Tom, I'm not, never been technical. I mean, I understand how in concept the pieces work, like how technology comes
Sure.
together. But my passion's
Yeah.
always been understanding problems and finding or building solutions to a problem. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I know we're all saying, well, there's technology, there's words like disruption and all that stuff. Technology is
All the
nothing but,
buzzwords, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
technology is nothing but
Yeah.
a solution to a problem, right? Because if we don't have a problem,
Yeah.
a lot of these technologies, if you think about, virtual reality, all these goggles came out and they're beautiful, but you don't ever see anyone on the street wearing, those
Not yet.
Apple
Yeah.
goggles or anything like that. So for me,
Yeah.
it's always like, what's the business problem? What are you able or not
Yeah.
able to do? Or what can you do cheaper, faster, better? And I've had the fortune, again, in my past life of working and seeing the ins of some of the top organizations in the world that are known for their
Mm.
customer experience. I've worked with, companies like Apple and Amazon
Wow.
and Under Armour and
Amazon's,
others,
yeah,
and kind
there's,
of seen,
yeah.
the insides of the secret sauce of what they've been able to do. And it's been a very similar concept, right? They define, if you think about a company like Apple, they've got great technology, but they don't pump out
Sure.
the technology, they pump out the benefits, right? I actually
Yeah.
did a blog about this the other day, like when, the late Steve Jobs rolled out the first iPod, when, again, dating myself a little bit,
Sure.
but he didn't say,
Yeah.
hey, here's a, 8 gigabyte device with a little spinning wheel on it. He said, it's 10,000 songs in your pocket, right? And
Yeah.
that's the problem
So
that the
smart.
iPod and then
Yeah.
later the iPhone and all that stuff solved, right? Is they got all these
Yeah.
devices that, you'd probably need a whole trunk to carry cameras and, rulers and levelers and, you name it.
Yeah.
It's all in one
Yeah.
device today, right?
Someone in the industry told me, and I always stuck to this, which I think is so good, is that for someone in, a seat like yours, and I'd say, I'll put myself in that category too, is that it's very easy to try to fall in love with the solution, right? You spend all this time and you really build it and you have this thing, and that's great, but it's honestly a trap for a lot of people.
It is.
What keeps people going, I think, in the tech space, and honestly, in general, anybody starting any type of business, like you're saying, is falling in love with the problem, right? Because as long as there's problems there, that's what people pay you for. Like you said, it's not to buy this VR. It's like, hey, I need this thing that's simpler, that's going to make my life easier. And that's, I think, what people really pay for. So love that insight. And it's so true. And I didn't realize that you worked with some of these big corporations. Like I know Amazon has always been something that I've always looked up to in terms of their corporate governance. And they just do so many things so creatively. And I think it's great that you can kind of build in that experience. One of the reasons I wanted you on this pod, I guess, was just I know that you've started, and I think a lot of maybe people listening would know you as kind of the AI powered broker. Is that fair to say? Because I know, I know you've done that talk a couple times and I've seen
For
it,
sure.
and I've really liked it. Where did that idea come from? In my opinion, when I look at it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I kind of see DDID and I see the AI presentation. And I kind of love both, but I at least initially had trouble kind of bridging that gap. And maybe it has to do with what you're describing of saying, hey, just a passion about solving problems regardless of the solution. But talk to me a bit about how that kind of presentation came about.
Yeah, for sure. So really came about from my passion of, again, solving
Yeah.
problems. And I was looking in, really geeking out on learning what's out there when it comes to AI for my business, right? And obviously, AI has come along very, very rapidly over the last couple
Hmm.
of years since ChatGPT. There's millions of applications. And as I started to look at some of these solutions, I realized, hey, you know what? I talk to mortgage brokers, real estate agents, lenders almost on a daily. And the
Hmm.
set
Sure.
of issues that they're having are actually very similar to what we're having with our business. It's all about, how do I
Sure. Yeah.
communicate? How do I scale myself? How do I do more with less? Like the issues are really, really common themes. So when I started to look at, what we've been applying in our business, I was looking for a way to just share it with the overall community because, if
Hmm.
everyone steps it up and everyone, jumps on, whether if it's AI or whether if it's, process improvement, I think, Tom, you and I have talked about it, it levels up the whole
Yeah.
industry, right? Because at the end of the day, whether
Hmm.
we like it or not, AI, it's here to stay. Technology like Blue or like Dita is here and here to stay. Whether you use it or not is obviously up to you and your business preference. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it does level up the experience for not only the mortgage broker, but also their client, right? So when their client has
Absolutely.
a great experience. So say they're behind the scenes of all the great stuff that your system provides, Tom, milestones and tracking and all the great stuff that Dita does to close their transaction. What's going to happen the next time around, right? That experience is going to be ingrained in that customer's mindset and they're not going to go back to the traditional way of doing things. So,
No. Yeah.
back to this, why do this whole AI thing is really, if we're all on the same page, knowledge is power. You at least know what your options are. And then as I'm seeing and talking to more people, a lot more folks are starting to implement some of these solutions. And then it just puts everyone in a much better place. So when a mortgage broker partner of ours or a realtor partner of ours is successful, we're successful because we're at the end of the day
Yeah.
partners, right?
No, yeah, it's true. And I think, a couple things there. First of all, I think going back to your point about the customer experience, I do think of it as an industry problem. And I am a little, of course, biased towards the mortgage broker industry. I did a video that got a ton of views a couple months ago, and I went to the Mortgages Canada subreddit, and there was like this post just ripping into this mortgage broker, and it was just it wasn't nice. And the point was to say, okay, are all mortgage brokers like this? And I think that's something, think about a little bit to say, especially for brokers, you are kind of representing all brokers, I think, across Canada when you're doing these things. And it can go both ways, right? So it can go the way of the post in this one of, yeah, they didn't respond to any of my emails. Why would I ever work with a broker again? Or to the way of what you're describing, if a broker can come in, can adopt these types of things very quickly, and then provide that amazing customer experience, people are going to say, yes, Tom was great, but also, hey, the broker channel is pretty awesome, right? My bank's
Exactly.
still getting back to me. Well, Tom was able to provide these things quicker, better, faster, all these things that these tools that you talk about
Yeah, and then
provide.
Tom,
So
I think it really connects the dots on what we just chatted about. It's like, at the end
yeah,
of the day, you've got this amazing industry that's been thriving and growing, but you still got about 90% of folks that just, don't know that there's any other option and they just, they walk into
yeah,
their bank branch for their mortgage. So again, it's about elevating the experience, but also because you have these many sort of businesses of one or even these brokerages, think about the opportunity to innovate very, very quickly and rapidly, right? So
so
take
quick.
take any
Yeah,
major bank, it might take you, 5 or 10 years to implement new technology. And as we all know, the pace that things are going today, by the time you're done implementing it, you're kind of, irrelevant, and you're back to square one.
Yeah.
Think about a mortgage broker. How long does it take for someone to implement your system, for example?
So quick, right? Yeah.
Right?
Days, weeks, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
you think of
Yeah.
delivering value to your clients in a couple weeks, with Blue, or, with Deeded, we get people set up in about 10 minutes, right?
No kidding.
And away
Wow.
you go. There you
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
offering that client experience that, again, your competition does not necessarily have in their back pocket. That's why it's so important to, not only
Yep.
adopt technology. Again, technology is nothing but a mere tool. So whether you're adopting
A new
one tool versus
process,
the other,
right?
yeah.
Or yeah,
But
no,
what's most
totally.
important, I find, is as a small business, you have the autonomy and you have the speed and agility. That's really your competitive advantage. So it's
Yeah.
really pertinent to have that open mind to change. Like a lot of us, I mean, we're
Yeah.
human, right? So humans are
Yeah.
creatures of habit. We wake up in the morning, we brush
Yeah.
our teeth, we do our little routine, we do the same thing at bedtime, right? So we're creatures
Yeah.
of habit. Change is good as long as it doesn't happen to us, although everybody says and claims they love change, right? But I find, especially nowadays when things are changing so quickly, you got the market changing, you got technology changing, you got consumers that are being stressed out, you've got
Totally.
policy change that's impacting the industry or in the industry probably about every 2 to 3 months.
Yep.
Now's the time. If you're a mortgage broker, if I'm in your seat, I'm ready to open my mind. And a friend of mine had a saying that stuck with me. It's the most expensive thing you can ever own is a closed mind. And I'm really starting to
Sure.
see that manifest itself in business, right? If you're not changing,
Yeah.
you're just going to get punched in the face and you won't even know it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think if I could bring it back a little bit to the AI stuff, I always say we're kind of in like the 1995 moment. Not that I have a great memory of that time, but if I can, I can look back in the history books at least, this time, the dot-com bubble, right?
Yeah,
And are we in a bubble? Who knows with AI? But I think the point that I like to make is, like back then, you had 100 new dot-com startups, right? And there was Amazon and there was Google, and then there was like pets.com and I don't know, all the other ones that no one remembers now. And so if you're looking at, of 100 new AI startups, like drawing the parallel.com, there's probably 5 to 10 that are really legit, but there's probably 90-ish, I don't know,
yep,
that are, used car salesmen just trying to pump something and using the new buzzword to do it. And do I know which ones are which, go in which category? No, I don't know. You probably know maybe a bit better because you researched it so much. But I think the point is what the speed enables you is also the ability to do trial and error, right?
right,
Is yes, I can implement quickly, but I can also learn very quickly, okay, this was a bad idea. Let's try the next one and
yeah,
let's try the next one. So it's not just speed, but it's those iterations that, again, what a bank's going to do is they're going to wait 5 years. They're going to wait till Amazon or Google proves themselves, and then they're going to do a 5-year due diligence. And then, yeah, by the year 20, when it's actually implemented,
for
they're already
sure.
behind. So,
Well said, Tom. I mean, I think
yeah,
that just hits the nail on the head because, ultimately, yeah, 95% or even more of these companies will not be around. But that doesn't mean, you need to wait until things rationalize. In fact,
yeah,
it's never been cheaper and easier, even on a personal level, to implement a
mm,
technology or try something out. I mean, I'm showing when I do my presentations like a website builder that'll knock out a website in like 15 seconds. You've got a website,
crazy.
landing page, all that
Yeah,
stuff. And people are often like blown away and amazed. And, it does change things drastically when you want to build a
yeah,
website, you want to build a landing page for any specific campaign. No longer do you have to go, find a web designer, work with them for 6 months and, spend 10 grand to do that. It's stuff like that
yeah,
that anybody can take off the shelf, pay $15 a month and get done,
yeah,
that AI is powering. There's that. There's,
yeah,
the ability to get on social, the ability to produce content, the ability to automate some key
right.
processes. And again, you don't need to be a techie. I'm doing this stuff. And again, I can't code, and, maybe I'm a little
Yeah,
bit
you
more
don't.
technical than the
Yeah.
average bear, but, you know,
Yeah, I love that website example because it made me think of when we first did, I don't know if it was a first or a second iteration. We've done so many website iterations, but there was one that we did where we did exactly what you described. We went out, we talked to a firm, we said, this is what our vision is. Actually, they didn't do any mock-ups. They just went and they said, okay, great. And they took weeks and weeks and weeks and they kept asking for money. We paid them probably 10,000 bucks at the end of it all. And then we were like, okay, where is this thing? What's going on? And they came back to us, and it was a Word document. That's how I I could describe it. It just looked like what I described to them, a header and a bunch of words. And we said, this is nothing. Like, what's going on? And it wasn't a happy ending to that story. But
Right.
that's exactly the point I think that you're making. It's like, you can go down that path and there's nothing wrong with it. But with these tools that we're describing, it's not weeks and weeks and $10,000. It's 20 minutes and $15, right?
Yeah.
Where you can just do it.
Yeah.
And okay, nope, that didn't work. Let's go to the next one. And that speed is just such a friend, such an asset in business to be able to do those iterations quickly. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people reach out to you. Maybe after that presentation, you can tell me if that's true or not. But I guess my two, questions coming out is like, has there been an example where like Tom, the brokers come to you and is like, you showed me this AI, you showed me that caller one. That always one sticks with me where you do like a live phone
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, for people listening, it's literally a live phone call with like a robot and it sounds so real. It's crazy. Have you heard anyone who said, I tried that, I implemented it, and I got a lead out of it, or like this like very meaningful impact has happened? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm
Yeah.
just curious. I think a lot of people listening are like, yeah, I saw the presentation. I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see, what shakes out, like we were saying. Do you have any like specific examples of people who just jumped in and are like seeing results?
Yeah, no, for sure. So great point, Tom. So I'll tell you what, I mean, from my understanding, I don't follow up with everybody, but
Sure.
90% of people will, take notes, be rigorous about it, go home and do nothing. Right. And I think that's kind of the
Yeah.
standard. But the
Okay.
ones that do, and I'll tell you a true story. So that calling one, there's a broker I was chatting with a couple weeks ago, and he took a list of dead leads, probably from 2018, and
Okay.
about 500 or 600 of them, fed them into this AI dialer that started to call in and basically, book appointments or even take applications. And he was able to get a substantial number of applications, and now subsequently they're turning into deals. And the
Wow.
cost has been absurdly low. We're talking about under $100 to get all
Yeah.
these deals in the door, and an old list that would have been in your trash bin, right? So I'm not saying everyone's going to have that type of success, but that's the cost of not trying.
Yeah.
The cost of doing nothing, you get excited, you see a little webinar, take some notes or whatever. But again, like, what's the cost of a closed mind? I firmly believe that those that are early adopters, they may not see success right away. Like we said, Tom, like, you might
No.
not benefit from having a website or a landing page or these auto dialers or social content or whatever. As we know, a lot of these things are long tail. There is no secret red pill that you take and your business just doubles overnight. At least I haven't found it yet.
Yeah, if you do, send some my way. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna have it on a
Yeah.
subscription model soon. But what there is the cost of not experimenting and not trying, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're trying and you're learning, every failure is a lesson, right? So you may have tried that auto dialer and it doesn't work, but the next time around, the next iteration gets better, and there you go,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
that's how people gain competitive advantage. That's when paradigms shift, and those that are still sitting saying, well, I'm happy with the old school way of doing things and I don't want to change, slowly
Hmm.
diminish into kind of irrelevance, hate to say it. And those
Yeah.
that do have the tools, right? So, that's why we call it the AI powered brokers, because I don't believe brokers are going away. I think brokers are providing tremendous value. But will your role morph into more of an advisor and a counselor and a consultant for people that really need to make some very viable financial decisions, or probably some of the biggest decisions of their lives? Yeah, it will
Yeah.
morph. And if you're able to automate some of the back end of, collecting all the paperwork and mowing through bank statements for, 15
Yeah.
hours a day, you could probably grow your business and do a lot more. And finally, you have the tools to do that, right?
The analogy I always use is like email, right? I think that, it's kind of funny saying it now, but, chatting with folks in the industry who went through that transition, people were terrified of email in the dot com. He said, me as a broker, what I do is I do all those things that email, quote unquote, is supposed to, replace us for, right? I would go and I'd drive to the broker's house and I'd have that conversation and then they'd sign the thing and then I'd take the commitment and I'd go to my office and I'd fax it and the lender would get it and then I'd get a fax back and then I'd drive back to the borrower and I do that, and now there's this email thing that I can just do all of that in a couple clicks, like we're toast, right? And of course, here we are in 2024, no one's toast, but I think what did happen is the people who adopted it probably early got more of the market, right? That's just what it is.
Yeah,
The really, really good brokers were able to do a lot more. And then the people who were reluctant, who never adopted it. I mean, I don't know any brokers right now who don't use email. Maybe you do, but I don't know any off the top of my
yeah,
head. And I think that's the same thing here is that I think just, with more tools means the best of the best are going to bubble to the top, and the people who are unwilling to adopt it might not have the job in 5 to 10 years. So I think we'll see, but that's my hypothesis, and
sure.
we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Okay. Well, honestly, I mean, I really wanted to dig into kind of this AI powered thing, and I think we really kind of were able to dig into it there. Any other, I guess, kind of final comments or questions that you wanted to share with, I guess, the audience here about that presentation that you do, or maybe, I don't know, any other thoughts you have kind of on the topic, and then we can maybe just shift gears and yeah, I mean, any kind of final thoughts on that AI powered stuff?
Yeah,
Pardon me.
again, I think, Tom, just to sum it up, massive
Yeah.
opportunity. I don't think it's a fad. I mean, a lot of folks are skeptical
Yeah.
of new technologies. Oh, okay, here's a new fad. Last year was crypto, this year it's AI. But if you've
Yeah.
played around with even ChatGPT is at basic, which I think most people have now, the capabilities are getting better by the day. It's
Yeah.
amazing what it does. I probably save 2 to 3 hours a day personally using it
Yeah.
for all sorts of stuff, business, personal, you name it, right?
Yeah.
And that's something you can't buy back, right? Like I can't get
Mhm.
another 3 hours a day unless I, sleep
Yeah.
for 3 hours less. And
Need your beauty rest. Yeah,
yeah, you
not
won't get a
off the
good person
table.
on the other
Yeah.
end if I've only slept for a couple hours. I hate to use, cliche words, but that's the game changer here, right? It will change how business is done. It already is changing, the education system. It's
Yeah.
changing jobs. So a lot of the jobs that exist today, people are hiring, analysts out of school, out of MBAs and all that
Yeah.
stuff where ChatGPT could probably do a much better job in 10
Yeah.
seconds, right? A lot of things are changing. And ultimately, as a professional, as anybody that's doing business, you owe it to yourself just to understand at a basic level, right? Of what's
Mhm.
going on and what that's going to mean to you and your industry. And you don't want to be in a moment where you're going to get caught with, unprepared or at least unaware. Because I think, we look historically, taxi drivers, obviously, Uber or Lyft comes along
Yeah.
and everybody just got caught completely unprepared. They didn't have an answer for
Flat-footed.
stuff,
No.
right? And they still don't, surprisingly, right? So, when Expedia came up or all these, travel sites and travel agents used to make, a ton of commissions when they used to book back in the day by phone. Same thing. The role will morph. And, are there still successful taxi drivers? I'm sure. I know for a fact
Yeah.
there's some travel agents that are very successful and they're well paid, but those are the ones that were able to morph and change. The rest are
Yeah.
probably in other jobs right now, right?
Totally. The first point is be able to morph and change. I think that's so important. I think also, in these conversations that you and I might have, or that people might hear even your presentation, I think people sometimes have the tendency to think of it as this big scary thing of like this thing that I have to like go and try, and it's an event and I'm going to do it. But something you just talked about there where it's like just use it on a personal basis. Like start there. I did the other day, like I think I was looking at, I don't know, I wanted to buy a car. And I was like, hey, well, I'm driving the Civic right now. This is the car maybe I want to get. This is how I'm driving the car. How much are my costs going to change? Right. And I was thinking that, and I was going to say, okay, I start Googling it, rates and all this. And then I just opened ChatGPT and literally just asked it, like in the words that I just did to you. And boom, there it is. And it was able to look up the rates, the
Yeah.
difference in fuel mileage, the difference you get in insurance. It was just crazy. Right. And I think that's a great example of where to start. It's like you don't have to go in and say, "Hey, ChatGPT, double my business," as we were talking about, like the red pill there.
Yeah.
Just start using it. Start having it as a muscle that you can have in your personal life, which will quickly turn into your business life, and see where that takes you. Because if you're not, the next person is, right? Especially as
Yeah.
young people are growing up, and you talked about the education system. It's just going to be so embedded that if you're not doing it, it's going to be strange, right?
Oh, for,
So,
for sure. And,
um,
and I think, again,
yeah,
like, we're just barely in the first inning, right? Because,
yeah,
today it's on your phone. It's a little bit bothersome. Tomorrow it's in your headset, in your eyeglasses and in your shirt or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we know where it's going. It's going to become almost like a second brain for people, and it's going to help them
Yep.
make decisions and give people back the whole essence of, making decisions, saving time, right? Like you said,
Yep.
Tom, what could have been easily an hour and a half spent on research is now done in 15 seconds, right? So let's tie that back to, a consumer looking for a mortgage is no different. Now can go to Chat
Totally.
GPT and
Yep.
say, hey, my mortgage is coming up for renewal. What are five good options? And then
What
when
should
it
I do?
presents me the
Yeah.
options, I could just say, well, wonderful. I'd like to apply to one, two, and three. Just get it done for me. And again, I'm not going the route that your professionals will be replaced, but at the end of the day that homework is going to be done by the consumer, just like the internet opened up all this information and
Yep.
data. So when you were a salesperson in Best Buy before the internet, you used to be the product educator. Hey, I want to buy a big screen TV, and I'd help you
Yep.
buy whatever, and educate you. Now, people just walk into the store and say, hey, I want TMG
XYZ model.
5000K. And I've already compared prices between Best Buy and 16 other stores, and I'm here to price match. Better yet, I don't even need to walk into the store. I could just order it and have it show up at my
Yeah.
door the next day. Right. So,
Hmm.
you got
Yeah.
that empowered consumer, and that's the other thing that
Yeah.
ChatGPT is going to do, or any AIs, raise that standard, because all that information is not only available, but now, to your point, it could be aggregated and compared. So just as you're comparing
So
your
quickly.
car,
Yeah.
why can't I do it for my mortgage or home or
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I think all this ties back to the point of, yeah, the professionals still be there, but it's just the ones who are able to pivot to this new model. Off the top of my head, not sure exactly what that would mean, or hey, what's the best way to live in a world where people are getting that advice from ChatGPT? But hey, the people who are able to answer that question are going to be, that much better than the folks who just aren't even thinking about it, right?
Yeah, again, it's no different than, part of it is information being available. Part of it is how do you make a decision, right? And I think that's where the
Mm,
human element,
yeah,
that's where if I want to book a trip around the world to multiple countries, I will not do that on Expedia, because I want to talk to someone, I want to talk to a professional
yeah.
that's been to these countries that could say, hey, you know what? You might not want to book that
Don't
discount
fly to that
airline,
airport.
right?
Yeah,
Not that
whatever, right?
airport.
Yeah,
Don't stay in that hotel or whatever, because that tribal knowledge is no different, when we talk about real estate agents, right? Your real estate agent, at least your top ones, are pure experts on the neighborhood. Not only do they know the neighborhood, they know the best schools. They know, exactly who's who are your neighbors and all that sort of stuff. That's the value. That's what you're paying for. You're not paying for,
hmm,
someone to stick a sign and put your property up on MLS. You're paying for that knowledge that, a lot of these people that grew up in these neighborhoods or will tell you, hey,
yeah.
don't buy in that condo building because your fees are about to go up, right? Same
Or it's
thing,
sketchy or
yeah.
whatever, right? Yeah,
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
stuff that's not, at least for the time being, until AI models are trained, it's not going to be there. Now it will be there eventually, so you're going to need to get a little bit, little bit smarter in terms of the value that you add and how you communicate that information, but yeah, it's going to get there soon.
amazing. Yeah. Well, listen, I always love these conversations. I knew this would be a good one, and I think we dug into some pretty cool stuff there. So thanks so much. Maybe just to wrap up, if anyone listening wants to get in touch, talk about DDID, talk about, AI, tell you you're wrong. I don't know. If anybody
Yeah,
wants to reach out, is there a way people can reach you?
absolutely. So you can email me, Reuven, Reuven at dita.ca. I'm also on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok. So
Are you
hit
on
me up.
TikTok? I was gonna ask that. I'm not there yet. I haven't made the leap,
Yeah,
but maybe I should. All right. Well, there you go. Well, listen, I do appreciate the convo and taking your time to do this. This was a lot of fun. We should definitely do it again sometime. But
you
thanks
bet.
so much for everyone listening. Thanks for your time and attention. As always, if you can hit that subscribe button, if you can just tell maybe one other person, that's how we grow. Just one at a time. That's how we know we're on the right track here. Thanks to you, Ruben. Thanks to the listeners. Bye for now.
Thanks, Tom.